Hi, welcome, one and all, to another episode of the Mattriarchy. I am, of course, Matt Reese, coming to you from Scottsbluff, Nebraska, in the frozen tundra that our state has become this last week and a half. And with me tonight are our three esteemed gentlemen, the creative or parts of the creative team from some of my favorite books being published right now. I've got Tim Lim with us.
Hello.
We have Matt Weldon of Punchline fame,
Hola, all.
and the ever nefarious Brian Ball of Rags.
Hi, my name is Guy Daigoji because that's the name of my soul.
Oh, what happened?
Oh yeah, and just like the season, he died.
I died so soon.
Too soon. He died.
Oh, I thought there was some technical problem. I'm like, get him back on there. So, from the chat right now, we've got some people joining us. Well, shout out to the Metal. There's Ahoy, Matt Krotz. Hello. And Noah, the Hyper Potato, instructs you, Matt, to draw some Sergeant Rock.
Oh crap! I can squeeze some Sergeant Rock. Hold on, let me grab a piece of paper. That's what I'm here to do. I'm here to monkey around on this.
And we're here, of course, to talk about various projects that everybody's got going on. I got Black Ops in the post last week. Read it over the weekend while I was snowed in Cheyenne, and it was a good time. Also, the Ginger Dominion has joined us as well.
Hey,
Tim, I have to tell you, one of the things
What's
you
up?
had asked somebody on the Twitter was to compare the flavor of the two volumes, because you felt that there were a few more jokes in the second volume. And you want to know how I thought that worked out really, really well, because I thought the cast had a different flavor to it, because there was just so much more going on with it. I really enjoyed both of them, though. I thought it was a really great story. But or the two sets of stories, but am I mistaken? Were there less little Easter eggs in Hair Trigger?
There is only one big Easter egg, and it's so big that you basically have to bend the spine to see it. But I'll give you a hint. It takes place in the control room where they're monitoring what's happening around the island. There is an Easter egg that's hidden in there, because normally when I put Easter eggs in, you have to have crowds, you have to have a lot of wall space and stuff like that, things that you can slip a detail in that no one is really going to notice. And because everything is taking place either in an open field with trees and stuff, or taking place inside narrow corridors, there just wasn't enough space to put Easter eggs and the sort in there. But I'm glad that you gave me your input, because it is tonally very different from the first Black Ops. Black Ops 1, we actually designed to be kind of subversive, in the sense that you have this ridiculous premise on the surface, but then the story itself is actually pretty serious.
Yes.
And I guess you could consider it like the pilot. It's almost like the pilot episode, and then this is more like the ongoing series where we establish our own universe of bad guys and the good guys. Has more of a G.I. Joe type flavor to it. But really, it just depends on what people like. Some people like the more serious storytelling. We wanted something that was more fun.
One of the things I thought about with Hair Trigger, it wasn't that I didn't feel that it was overly more humorous as a whole. That it didn't seem out of place, I guess is what I meant. It wasn't like it was a drastic derivation from it. You had different character dynamics that lend themselves toward humor, because Patriotter and USA GI. And I have to stop myself. I got to talk about that in a second. But they have a very interesting dynamic, because they just don't like each other. Their personalities clash. They have, they can see past that to mission goals and all that kind of stuff. And it's not so complex that you can't imagine that coming from animals that are merely hyper intelligent as well. But it was still one of those things where I didn't think that there were any moments that really stuck out as not fitting the more serious tone of the stakes of the story. I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't I think a lot of comics that try to be humor comics, that are also try to be like hero type stories, miss is they make the stakes so low that the humor just seems to overshadow everything, as opposed to having the comedy or humor that's derived naturally from the environment and the circumstance that it's in, because there are characters that play out and maybe they're a little funny, but the stakes and the scenarios are still fairly serious in it.
Well, the other thing too is that our template, sort of the thing that we were looking for as far as mood, is we're really big fans of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's essentially kind of the same blueprint where it's like, on its face, it sounds like a ridiculous concept. I mean, it's in the title, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. If you read the books and you watch the cartoons, you can actually see where they don't really play it for laughs. They play it as if it existed in this universe and it was played straight and played serious. And that's kind of what we wanted to do too. Now, a lot of what helps in Black Ops 2 is we made sure that Matt was the one responsible for the Patriotter portion, because that is the new character, and what we had to convey with him is that Patriotter is kind of like the Raphael type or the Wolverine type. He's like the anti-hero. He's a loose cannon. He's crazy. Like, you can't control him in the same way that USAGI is more of like a Cyclops type character, the boy out kind of a be-goody. And because Matt has more dynamic flair in his art and storytelling, we just figured that he was the best for that portion, and that made it very well. People were like, I was listening to a Needle Mover Society, and it's actually Matt Veely's wife who was like, the best scene in this whole book is when Patriotter is riding Rick a sled from like this platform into a tube, and she was like, I don't know why, but visually it's just such a funny moment. But it's serious, as in like this is what would happen if this was the scenario. It's hard if they're playing it for laughs or if they're playing it serious. And I'm like, well, we kind of get the best of both worlds, because it's a farcical concept, but we see it through to the end. I think that pulled it off very well.
Which actually,
that freaking Patriotter, he's not one to be leashed. So yeah. Yeah, he was just having his way with Rigger. Like, yeah, he just had his way with whoever got in front of him. So,
which actually, Rigger Tortoise really surprised me, because I'm sitting there reading this book, like, what is this stupid turtle doing? Just walking and walking. Oh my god, missiles! Oh my god, it's a great thing.
And I'll tell you, like, this is the funny thing where the people working on the book, and it's why typically, it's good to have editors, and it's also good to see kind of how audiences react to something that you did not intend. We actually thought the breakout character would be Patriotter. Like, all the people reviewing it would be like, oh my gosh, I love this character. He's so cool. Everyone, hands down, says that they like Rigger Tortoise. They're like, oh my gosh, I love that freaking turtle.
Are you serious?
I think it was because of that payoff at the end. Yeah.
I wasn't even aware of that. He was in my mind just like a little joke addition to the crew. You know, he's the guy that, you know, that is so slow that whenever you see him show up during a mission, it's usually when the crew gets hemmed up in a certain spot, or they need to blow a wall or something like that, and he'll just show up and blow the wall. And then he'll just take off, you know what I'm saying, do his own thing. Like, he has parachutes, you know, in his shell, just whatever you need. And this is like completely news to me. But
that actually sort of brings up a bit of my question too, because like the one of the interesting aspects that you have going into your universe is and Bill has just appeared. I will go ahead and bring him on. So we've got a full cast here.
I did appear.
Yes,
yes, he's here.
He's here.
Now our grid is imperfect again. Bill's just going to be hanging off our grid like a little stink nugget.
Well, yeah, I guess I can. The only thing is, like,
he's down here with the balls of the group.
Lefty and righty.
We're just hanging out down here.
Oh my god. You've ruined it, Brian. I had a question. Okay, what I was saying though is my question about rigor tortoise is to frame it though. That's what I was at before all of this happened. Is that like one of the things you've built into your universe is that you've got these enhanced enhanced animals that have near human intelligence and paranormal abilities and all this kind of stuff, and then you have rigor tortoise, who is just a turtle with a gadget for a shell, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
he's still in development.
He's not enhanced in any way.
Yeah. So, how does I guess I wouldn't call a turtle normally smart enough to answer to follow instructions, right? So, what are the operating principles behind the turtle?
So what he does is he can follow neural impulses. So it's not like he's being mind controlled, but basically it's like he has something in his ear constantly whispering to him and telling him what to do. So in that sense, whereas the others like Patriotter and USAGI, they're essentially cryptids, like they're modern day cryptids. Right. But that's the important distinction is that, I mean, this is like a spoiler alert for Black Ops 3 and Common America, because we're actually going to rope them in all together. But it's the idea that you have some particles that are radiation hormesis, which are called chimeratons. And chimeratons have a bonding property where they can bond either bond an organic creature with another organic creature. They can bond organic life with an elemental force. And in most cases of cryptids, they're all like hybridized if you think about it. Bigfoot is essentially like a human ape hybrid.
Right.
The Loch Ness Monster is like dinosaur and sea serpent. Even like the tassel worm used as our prototype character is a cat and a snake combined. So they all have these chimeric type elements. Now, what makes USAGI and Patriotter unique is they get the benefits of the radiation, but without the unfortunate side effects of being basically hybridized things. So in the sense of what the military is trying to do with them is in Black Ops 2, we find out that they've actually been trying to use them for their own purpose via like Apex Moth, who no one has pointed it out yet, so maybe I have to just say it. But Apex Moth is basically our version of the Mothman. In fact, his full page spread where he talks about his disaster in 1956 is actually a reference to the real life kind of details surrounding the weird Mothman thing that happened in Point Pleasant. And so basically the military is like, well, we have this turtle, and if we can't make it, we have to find a way to come. So they basically have a neural link in the turtle that they can try and command it with, but it's still autonomous. It does its own thing, which is why there's a panel where it's just sitting around like eating grass, because it knows it has to make it to a destination, but he's a turtle. That's what he's going to do. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's a really fun concept. And I think the whole thing played together really, really well. Now, are you going to, with Hair Trigger, is that going to have an Antarctic release as well, or are you guys just doing that all indie yourselves?
So it is going to have an Antarctic press release, but it's going to be lacking the Penelope backup story, and it's going to be lacking some of the concept art, and it's going to be having a completely different back cover. So altogether, the difference is about 12 pages. So that's how many pages are going to be cut off from the retail version.
Yeah, I thought my guess was the Penelope story would be got the scissors on that deal if you did it. But yeah, it was so much fun. I love the whole packaging. I thought one of the things I heard you were talking to, I cannot remember who it was. You're talking to. Oh, I remember. It was Thomas Royloop, and you were talking about how much narration and exposition you have in the aspect of it. And one of the things that I did want to go ahead and point out is that I thought it worked really well, although there is a lot of reading, because it felt like reading a report, right? It had that military report feel that I think was net just added to the texture of the piece. So I definitely could forgive having a lot of reading for the sake of keeping that flavor in there. So,
Well, thank you. Well, I appreciate it. And because we have him here, it was actually so when Bill was lettering it, that was one of the most important pieces of advice he gave us, which is, hey, I get it. You guys have this exposition. And as a writer, I know why you do it. It's because, hey, I took all this time to put the research into it. Now you, the reader, are going to have to know what I know. And when Bill was lettering it, I mean, he was getting pretty tiny with the text. And he was like, there is way too much text per page. Like, you guys have got to cut some stuff out. And I was like, holy cow, you're right. I mean, I was like looking at it too. So there were some key pages where I took Bill's lettering and kind of edited it to have them fit the panels. But that was the importance of having Bill come in and letter for us, was we actually learned a lot from an editing and writing perspective on how to trim that fat. So that's something that we're doing with all of our scripts from this point forward, is learning how to trim them, because really the reader only needs to know as much as is necessary to propel the story. Everything else, like, we can keep to ourselves.
yeah. And I think some of that back matter makes for future projects too, but that's an important aspect. So, to change the subject,
Tim, he's a giver. Mark, he's a giver.
Yeah,
they just want to put it out there.
Was that you breathing, or was it someone else?
I think it might be Bill.
That was
so
Bill. He was giving his mic some sweet love.
I thought someone was eating a pickle.
Now is a good time to take him off, because I actually have some questions, because I invited Tim on to fill the space before Bill could get here, and Bill got here sooner than I expected, which is fine. But I had wanted to bring Bill and Matt on as sort of a celebration for. Well, Matt and I and Bill had talked about it like about a month ago, but I knew I wasn't going to be able to have the before your Kickstarter ended. So I was trusting that you were going to make your goal and have you for a day after celebration for Punchline Frenemies. So,
yeah, holy crap, that was a close one.
Right down.
Yeah, it was. That first couple of days, numbers are straight up. And then it started to look sort of like a table after that. So, it took a while to hit that number. But, we had a lot of people that were very supportive. Doug Ernst was great. And we had a lot of people come in and just say, hey, we're going to share this till people are sick of seeing it.
So, nihilists in the chats make me feel bad for calling you filler, Tim. So I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. That's no problem. I've been on here before. I appreciate it.
But also, I just read Black Ops both volumes, so I wanted to talk about that too. But yeah, but back to Punchline Volume 2, you guys, it's what's your fulfillment date schedule on that looks like? Because number 10, which is included in the trade, hasn't been published in floppy, right?
That's right. We are working on finishing that up now. And that should be finished within a month, and at least that's the hope. And then the AP version will come out, and then our version will come out, and we'll have, some extra art in it, and we'll sign it for all the people that are buying it. And I guess this is a good enough time to say that our intention was always to do a Kickstarter version and then an Indiegogo version. I would have done the Indiegogo version first because that was our most loyal batch of fans, the people that backed us the last go around. But Kickstarter has these things that they call rules and stuff where they don't want somebody sloppy second. So if you're going to do both of them, you have to do them first. So that's what we're doing. And as soon as I can get my stuff together, we'll get an Indiegogo campaign up and running. We don't really need cash for our printing bills covered, so we're just going to go on to Indiegogo and touch base with our existing fans and let them know we didn't forget about them. We just had to, be nice to somebody else first.
Hey, yeah, I'm glad we brought that up. Just real quick, I forgot to mention when I saw you the other day that I could have swore that I saw on another campaign over on Kickstarter recently that they might have an option, or you can, where I saw that somebody said, or it was on the actual Kickstarter page now on Indiegogo. And I was like, wow, that would be cool if they actually had an option that led you, and maybe there was a link from the Kickstarter to the Indiegogo now. Like they actually seemed cool with it as long as you did them first, you know?
Yeah.
I
They're
look
a
into
little
that more,
fussy
though.
and yeah, I thought that'd be a little confusing. That would frankly be more work than I wanted to do. So, we'll do one then the other. And I thought that I would do the Kickstarter campaign because comic book people in specific and people in general are pretty tribal. And we did a couple of different tier levels where we had, a first and second trade or a first and second hardcover. And we sold probably that soft cover / hardcover set. So we reached out and got, 100 some odd new fans that had never heard of us until we ended up on the Kickstarter.
Yeah. And I think that using both platforms, because they do just have different markets. I mean, I know I purchased from both of them, depending on, if I have money or if the project looks right,
Yeah.
But that's always a question.
Speaking of projects, I have a project that you might be interested in.
Oh, that just got funded.
Yeah,
I hear it's about funding money. Is that good?
That's very,
Is that
very
a special
good.
kind of money?
It's
Good for you, dude.
It's remarkable, Brian. It's remarkable.
I'm probably gonna be like the only campaign that actually fulfills before it's even like closed out.
Well, and I have to say, like, I feel a little hurt because I know, like, we just did one this summer for a book that for our company Ideal. We're probably going to miss our December deadline. I mean, like, that was to have it shipped out, and I don't think we're going to make it. It's very, very slimly possible. I don't think we're going to, so we're going to have to fess up and say, it's probably looking at, maybe even February. Let's sit down the team and do our math again. But so for you to say, well, we're going to ship on time.
So Brian, how many covers are you going to put on that Nothing? I hear that the rage is to do like 6 or 8 covers on a book and just ship that one thing. Is that true?
Yeah. we kind of do that for our Patreon backers, because what ends up happening is I'll get Luigi to do like some nice art in between starting layouts or whatever, or when he's got nothing to do, and I'll be lettering. So like, oh hey, draw this as a pinup, and then I'll post it to Patreon as kind of like, oh, here's your pinup update, and then I'll get like 50 DMs like, this should be like the next cover. Like, what, screw it here, and I just make it real quick, and there you go. So I kind of went a little overboard for issue 4, and I've been told like to never do that ever again. Like, I think they ended up getting like 6 covers. There's like 2 or 3 bonus covers I ended up just giving the backers in between, and then I also have like this little manga test that we're about to do that's getting like my tier 1 backers. So like everyone's getting like these neat little extras as I go along. But yeah, we ended up doing like 6 or 8 freaking variant covers just for one, all because people say like, oh, they want it. Like, all right, fair, here you go.
Well, who told you not to do that? Was it people at AP or was it somebody else? Yeah.
Oh no, it's just internally, because what ended up happening is we got backed up fulfilling like all these issue 4 covers, and it's like, oh well, now our printer's backed up with getting issue 5 out, so issue 5 probably won't hit until either the end of this month or early January, which that makes me mad because I'm all about project management. So that was just me like, oh hey, here's some free stuff, guys, and they didn't really think of like the consequences of that. So I'm probably gonna dial that back way much. And also one big thing, AP has like no control over Patreon, so what we do over there is kind of, it's kind of like the Wild West.
Sweet.
So you guys, your Patreon game is remarkable. I mean, you guys have such traction and such great fans over there.
Oh yeah, our Patreons are amazing. It's a wide variety of people, a lot of veterans, a lot of we got like a Twitch streamer, Mad Mori, the Twitch streamer who just spent like 2-3 months promoting us, and he actually got on the phone with Doug from AP. He was like, how do I get this uncensored version? And then spent like 2 or 3 days looking for our Kickstarter, which we don't have one. Ended up being the Patreon, but he ended up being a great help within the community. And so just as a thanks, we made him his own cover so he can give out to his fans.
Whoa.
So
couple
we always
things
try to
That's
like
awesome.
reward like the guys that back us with whatever we can do.
Well, a couple things from the chat. One, Ginger Dominion asks if the Kickstarter version of Punchline will include a swimsuit shots of Matt.
Which Matt?
I'm assuming.
Oh, that'd be you.
I'm
Hey,
assuming it's relevant since I wasn't involved in
I'm pretty sure it's
Punchline at
not
all.
Matt Dillon or Matt Helm. Yeah, I think that's you.
Hey, I can illustrate anything.
Matt
Hey,
to your win.
it's kind of wacky. It's funny you guys bring that up. Tim reminded me that we need to do a swimsuit issue of all of the girls, and get like a whole gang of illustrations together and try to solicit a whole swimsuit catalog for all of our heroines.
Yes,
So,
mine will
2020
be
is
at the
gonna
nude
be
beach
it.
though.
Right. Like we do.
I think that probably might be
Nice.
like the one issue where Regina's wearing more clothes than.
Wow. Who? How does this even happen? Who requested such things?
It was actually AP. They were the ones who came up with it.
No, I mean, who was
No,
the?
I think I was talking to Brian Denham about it. I was like, oh man, we should totally do this. And then we got backed up, but it's been on my one of my priority lists to get done here sometime in the future.
We were talking at lunch 3 days ago on how we do it. Like, I think so most swimsuit issues, like for example, Street Fighter, it's about a 22 to 24 pager, so not too big. But I just thought to myself, like, if we put out just between your Patreon and like Twitter and just be like, hey, if you want to contribute art to it, just send all your submissions here. And then we'll just pick like the best, I don't know, maybe 15 or so. And then obviously we'll contribute some art too on our own. I mean, I think if we do that, we could knock that out within like 2 months easily.
Oh my gosh, I just really want to do it really badly.
So, also from the chat, Nihilus says AP doesn't have say over our Patreon. He mentioned it just moments before you did, Brian, and then he called you a bitch.
Whatever, Pumpkin. I'm gonna skip all the cutscenes next time.
The brutality.
I just wanted to make sure that the whole team gets a voice, since I didn't think to ask him.
Oh, I sent it the link. Just FYI, whenever you invite me, I drag Nihilus along wherever. So he has the link in his Discord chat if he opens it up.
Yeah. There you go. So, man, I had a couple of questions. You guys were talking about the swimsuit thing, and I forgot about them while I was putting those posts up. I can't remember it. Doesn't matter. So, Bill.
Yes.
I had Matt on a couple weeks ago to talk about just stuff in general, and we talked about his story of the formation of Punchline. Why don't you give me your version and see if it matches?
Oh yeah.
Okay. Wow, this isn't under oath, is it? Because I tend to make stuff up.
No,
that's kind of my
you're
job.
a writer. That's what we do.
Yeah. So I ran into Matt at Dragon's Lair. We were sitting next to each other at a thing they did called Webcomics Rampage, and I looked over and I said, blank, that guy can draw. So as a writer, you're always trying to find some sort of guy that you can trick into drawing something for you. So I said, hey, you want to work on something together? And Matt said, yeah, sure. And then I saw him at a show in Houston like a couple of years later.
Many years later.
He was wrapping up that Plus Ultra thing that he did, and I walked over and said, hey, what are you doing? And the guy that he was doing the Plus Ultra book for was kind of glaringly territorial there for a minute. It's like, hey, don't be talking to my artist.
Yeah,
blah,
Bill's
blah, blah, blah,
nuts, man. He comes over to the table that I was a guest at and says, hey, let's come make out with me over here.
I do that a lot. You got to hunt with a shotgun, not a rifle. So once we decided to chat about doing a book, I did that writer thing where I had like 3 or 4 pitches put together in my head, So we got together at there's this place called Freebirds that makes awesome burritos, and we're talking. And I said, okay, I've got this thing about a superhero that gets fired and she has to train her replacement. And Matt just kind of looked at me, and I said, and I've also got this high fantasy thing that's like a little bit Dirty Dozen, a little bit Lord of the Rings. And he says, okay, let's talk about that superhero thing. So I pitched him the story. It's a bitter, greatest generation type who gets fired and has to train a millennial kid, and they don't get along. And they, when they're not fighting with each other, they're fighting bad guys. It's kind of that classic construction, like, if the Odd Couple fought crime, or if, it's like Lethal Weapon or that kind of thing. It's the kind of thing that's been trod a whole lot in movies, but not a whole lot in comics. So I made some suggestions. I went and wrote some script, and that gave Matt some time to design the costume. We sent it over to Image, but that's not really their thing anymore. If it's not a Kirkman book, it's not going to be a superhero book, or if it's not a Founders book, it's they got no room for that. I sent it to IDW, and the people at IDW were very polite, and they said, we really like to read this book, but we're just not going to put it out. So we started putting out these little 11-page dollar comics on Comixology, and they're still a little bit in the system. And there are people that are like confused because we've got a couple of different kinds of issues, and one is the dollar comics and then the regular comics that match the AP. We've been working on stuff ever since. I'm 3 or 4 scripts ahead of Matt, and we get them done when we get them done. It's like most projects where you've got a year or two to do your first one, and then the next one has to be ready in 6 months. So we're kind of taking our time finishing some things up and making sure that 10's finished and ready to go. But Matt and I were talking yesterday, day before, about what the book's going to look like going forward.
Hey, I got a quick wacky question. Tim and Brian, did you guys ever submit to Image or anywhere else?
So, fun story. My friend Denton is one of the publishers over there at IDW, and Liberty Station's like right down the street from where I was working. So I actually walked the Rags prologue into the office and said, "Hey, would you guys mind giving me a shot?" And I just got laughed at. So, basically after that, I kind of figured, like, you know what? I don't need anybody. I'm just gonna do it myself.
Was that before or after you started up the Patreon?
That was,
or during?
I would say after, because I still had like the Patreon going, but nobody was subbing. Gotcha. I think I only had like one person at the time. And so the way I was actually funding the book was I was selling T-shirts. I was just selling merch. Just buy my stuff, buy my merch, buy my stickers.
Yeah, your merch game is strong.
Yes.
Oh, it's about to get even stronger here in a minute. I just figured out I can do wall scrolls, and I just figured out I can actually print T-shirts with the shoulder stuff. So
what?
Yeah. Oh yeah, next year is gonna be nuts, and then I think we're finally gonna get our calendar out sometime next year. But yeah,
that's not why it's gonna be strong, Brian. It's gonna be strong because you're gonna be selling the N-word passes, but you're gonna put more days on them.
Oh, so funnily enough, the N-word pass is my highest selling product.
Exactly. Put more days on it. Why is it only limited like twice a year? If you make it like 7 a year, yes. Holy cow.
Oh,
7 a week.
Well, we have to be realistic with this. You just can't be running around throwing N-words all over the place, and it just negates the whole use of the pass. I haven't gotten approval for the Infinite Pass yet. We still have to see if we get one of the 4 highest, baddest motherfuckers to sign off on that. But it's a process.
They need to address that at the quarterly meeting, right?
Yes, and I've gotten my black card taken away, so I'm only allowed in for like the first 10 minutes, and I have to walk out with the rest of the white people. But it's fine. I've got a way in. And I hope everyone believes in me. I can get this.
Good.
Nice.
Thanks. This is what American has been.
Oh my God! You just ruined it. You just ruined me.
Oh. Okay, well, if you think that ruined you, if we weren't selling to Elizabar, the season 2 tagline of Rags would have been with 10% more casual racism.
I just saw
Nice.
that today.
Well, and actually, that one comes out. That kind of flashes back, and not to totally derail off the punchline conversation, but I'm going to bounce around because that's what I do. That relates back to something that I wanted to bring up when we were talking about Black Ops. How I thought that the one of the things that I think that Hair Trigger did really well was the casual humor, where didn't seem forced. It didn't take away from the stakes of anything. Rags is like one of the best products for that. I mean, you've got this emotionally drenched, gruesome, forgive the language, but I can't think of what to say. This is the mind fuck of a story, right?
Oh, you have no idea.
That's still funny as hell, right? I mean,
Oh yeah. When I sent that preview page to Brian, he's like, "Really? Like, yes, that's the green weenie." I'm gonna have to censor this art. Yes, you are. Like, damn it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So it's amazing, and like one of the things, like when I saw that it was coming out and everything, and I was a little skeptical. I'm kind of a conservative guy. I'm not necessarily a big fan of casual nudity, and I didn't think of it, right, but people kept talking it up, and so I was at the shop, at the comic shop, and I saw it sitting there on the shelf, and I started flipping through it, right, and I was instantly struck with how, in the story itself, right, how non-sexual the nudity was, right? It wasn't exploitative. It was actually part of the story, right? It was an intrinsic and vital part of the story that had something very important to say. And it was like, okay, I have to see the rest of this. That first issue just hooked me. And it's a great of fiction. It's a great story, and I'm really glad that you come on my show to hear me rant about stuff. So,
oh, thanks. A lot of this, I really have to, give credit to Trent for helping flesh out that plot line and making sure that everything stuck together. If you don't know, like we're basically like a writing team, so it's not like I did 90% of it. And Trent, no, like we worked it together, and just trying to make sure that the nudity made sense and how it made sense, and then just like actually having the scenario be something that could actually happen in a really tense situation like a zombie apocalypse. That took a bit. That took a lot of back and forth, and then we finally just got it just right to where it was believable enough.
Well, I heard that whole writing team was all subject to what CGC thought about it on any given day.
Who? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, still to this day they don't give me the credit.
I know, it's so tragic.
I turned in a cover to who was it? I turned in a cover to AP or one of our credits page, and I had actually taken my name out and put like other guy on it, and you're like, you have to change it to your name. I was like, no, this is the joke. Since no one's giving me credit for this, I'll just be the other guy from now on.
I heard about that. That's hilarious.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's dope.
Oh, it's absolutely hilarious. Like every comic shop, like for like issue 1, and I think even still today, like they don't ever credit me for anything. It's either like Trent Luther on art, Trent Luther writing, Luigi on art, and then that's it. It's like, do you guys not go alphabetically? Like, and I think it's because, it's because I have the whiter sounding name, and Trent's got the more ethnic sounding name, if we're going to be honest. So I think what they're trying to do is trying to be woke, and they don't actually realize they've erased
Oh man, that's so funny.
Dirty birdies.
So also, Eliza Barr asks how the invisible variant is coming.
It's coming. It's actually coming along. So the invisible variant. Can
I say real quick? Brian he texted me this morning. He was like, "What should our stretch goal be?" And I said, "Your stretch goal should be the chromium invisible variant."
Sprinkled with diamond dust. As a matter of fact. So I have to go get that created, and that turned in. But CGC
I don't know.
I
hear the chromium technology has been lost, and it might be hard to find.
Oh no, I hired some really great African. I mean, be back.
Hey, Tim, Brian, I'm
What's
putting. I don't know if you guys can see this or not, but I'm throwing Regina and Penelope in with the sergeant.
I can't believe you just drew that.
Yeah.
Can you see it? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
That's what he
did it.
does.
USAGI is
That's
going
his-
to be right down here, though.
Oh my gosh.
So
this is
here's the question.
insane.
That actually brings up one of the things that I meant to talk to you about when you were on last time, Matt, and I forgot because we got talking about my stuff. Actually, it was anyway. It doesn't matter. But your style has something very Art Nouveau about it.
You have to define that for me. I'm not familiar with
Okay,
terminology.
so French commercial art from the 1840s through the like 1900 was kind of like a precursor to the Art Deco movement. That was a lot of flowers, a lot of lines, a lot of curvilinear stuff. But it had a very light touch.
The guys that came out of that were pre-Raphaelites came out of that, and it's got an aspect of like Barry Windsor Smith too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That level of detail.
Yeah. But yeah, it's all very detailed, and where one line it's got this super detail, but it also has this proto impressionistic idea where one form shifts into the other form, and so it's all got a very fluid look too.
Well, that's cool. If now you kind of lost me until you said word fluid. As far as what I aim to try and do whenever I draw is to try to just make it flow. Try to as soon as one character is established on the page, it's kind of easy and fun to figure out how the other characters go on there as far as the use of space goes, and just try to make it flow is pretty much it. Try to we were talking about in the off camera when we were discussing anime and stuff like that. Like anime helped in a huge way. Like as far as drawing one panel to the next, at least that's what I try to do. Is I try to just make it look animated and to where it'll flow. But yeah, I appreciate all that. Everything you said, I'm sure it was awesome.
Now I feel like a pretentious ass. Thank you.
No, my bad. No.
Trust me, I need knocked down every once and again. It's good for my soul.
Yeah, I just heard that Art Deco thing. I just heard it was French too. I just for the first time this week too. So I'm learning all.
Are you familiar at all with James Robinson's Starman from the 90s?
I'd probably recognize it if I saw it.
The artist, and his name escapes me for a minute, who was with the first half of the series, was very influenced by
Tony Harris.
Art Deco. Tony Harris, thank you.
Oh, I know who that is. I think.
But Art Deco and the designs and the buildings, it was all supposed to be that Gilded Age architecture and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so, I'm down with that.
And it's
like a less cartoony version of Darwin Cook.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah, and
wait, is that guy that's not with us anymore?
Yes.
Darwin Cook, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Darwin Cook had a I don't know how to just even describe it. It's just amazing.
Well, plus I got a trampoline for the first time in like 30 years, and my brain's a little loose right now. So.
You got a trampoline,
bro? I mean, it was free.
You have a trampoline?
I got it off Craigslist for free from a really rich neighborhood.
Okay, now I got to take a vacation to come down and see you.
It's a XL trampoline too.
Yes,
it's got a safety net.
Coward.
Oh man,
it literally goes like my yard is like I got a really petite little yard, if you will, and it goes from my back fence, which will be awesome because the fences in this area are made very shabbily and it'll fall down eventually. Maybe it'll prop it up for a while, but it goes from all the way from my back fence to my back patio. There's literally no room in my backyard to go anywhere else. But,
I have
who cares when you have a trampoline?
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
Trampoline, you can go anywhere.
Dude, I was out looking at.
You can go into the neighbor's yard.
Dude, I have never peered into my neighbors' yards as much as I have this last 2 days in the last 8 years.
Not gonna lie, I wouldn't be looking into the yards.
Like it, yeah, no, and it sucks too because I kind of have to do what, I try to shy away from, which is get dressed when I have to go out there and jump on my trampoline. Because the first thing I wanted to do was like go jump on a trampoline in the proverbial buff, but yeah, not
That's
allowed.
just asking for all kinds of uncomfortable injuries, man. I'm just telling you.
I mean, I just want, maybe not completely, but I just wanted I wanted to get liberal, Anyways,
Nice.
this just as an explanation to my intermittent thoughts, if they.
No, that's fine. I have a trampoline story that is probably not interesting, but I'm going to tell it anyway.
But I'm just saying, 'tis the season for refurbished goods and old trampolines.
Well, yeah, not up here. It's too cold. But
Oh crap!
summer, the neighbors across the street from us a trampoline and set it up in their front yard, and it was one of those that's supposed to have the guarded fence to keep the kids from falling off of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But they only put up the posts, the fencing part, and didn't put them all in. So they just had these metal posts that were sitting around this trampoline, just exposed. And all summer, I'd sit on the front porch and I'd drink coffee or have a tea or whatever, and just sit in abject terror that one of those children was going to lose an eyeball on that thing. It was the worst experience of my life. That I exaggerate. It was not the worst. I've had worse, but it wasn't fun.
You don't want to look out your trampoline and think you're seeing something from Game of Thrones out there with people impaled on your guardrails.
Yeah,
that's not
and
good.
It's like, and the thing is, and it was like one of those things where like, okay, it's not my trampoline, it's not my yard, they're not my children. I don't really have any reason to have a stake in this, but
that's a good.
I can't look away. I can't look away. I don't want to see other people's children hurt either, and thankfully nobody was.
Yeah, but
hand to God, but
you're stressing out. Yeah, it's the agony of the thought of things.
Oh. Yeah, because I like to sit on my front porch, and because I have a front porch, it's nice. You have a yard.
Nice. No, yeah, I haven't stepped foot in my backyard in like a year and a half, so I had to go mow it and hack down what was in the way. But yeah, it's all good. I had a. It's kind of cool too. My wife was like, I have an old jacuzzi tub back there because I planned on going doomsday and creating my own little hydroponic fish farm and stuff like that. So I had to move that out of the way and make some room for the trampoline. But yeah, it was worth it. It's a good time. It's a lot of it's exercise though. It's more exercise than I remember, so I'm gonna have to.
Well, when was the last time you used a trampoline, Matt?
Dude, forever. But I'm just saying, like, if you want to get some heavy breathing going,
1996.
Holy crap!
Is that your number, or are you projecting Matt's?
No, that was mine. That was definitely mine.
It was in the 90s.
There's a lady up the street, and she had a trampoline in her backyard, and we used to, like, the neighborhood kids, we go from house to house to house, and she had the trampoline, so we go just run through her house, play on the trampoline, and then leave, and she's like, all right, see you guys next weekend. Growing up back in the day was really nice.
I remember neighborhoods. It's not something they seem to be. I mean, we live in one, but I don't know my neighbors. But
true.
Yeah, we used to know like all of our neighbors. Actually, the neighbor across the street that I knew for like 30 years, she died. Oh, both her and her husband died. I want to say about 10 months ago or so.
Dang.
Yeah, and like I've known them for like 30 years, so like I've known them ever since I was a kid. And so just helping the daughters like move all the stuff out of the house and get that situation done was kind of surreal, but I don't think I know my new neighbors anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's really strange. Yeah, I remember.
Wow.
But if one of them had a trampoline, I'd know them a lot more.
I was buddies with Bill Willingham for years, and when he lived in Las Vegas, I saw him all the time because there's other stuff to do. We'd go and hang out, and then we'd go play cards or hit a buffet or something like that. Now he lives in Minnesota. I'm like, That's really cold there, right? So sadly, I don't see him as much as I'd like to.
Yeah, Minnesota's
I
only
didn't know.
cold half of the year, and the other half of the year it's muggy.
Yes,
I didn't know you used to live in Vegas, Bill.
he did. I've been an Austin guy. I've been unwilling to leave for most reasons. The longest time. I've been in Vegas a few times a year and hang out with him and talk TV, movies, drink a couple of beers, look at his collection of Eisners, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's got to be a real rough thing to have there. Oh, they just take up so much space. Yeah.
Yes. Well, they're tiny and heavy. It's a globe, and apparently it's a globe that's made out of lead or something. It just looks really good on a shelf. It's also the kind of thing you can bean somebody with pretty well.
Well, if somebody comes in to steal your Eisners, you can use one for a deterrent, I guess.
It's true. That's true. Yeah, we hung out for the longest time after Elementals and before he started working for DC on a regular basis, where we worked on a couple of comics together. And then he went off and had another bite at a career, so that's been pretty good. And he's really made the most of it. He's I miss being able to hang out with him all the time.
Yeah, because you've been like writing comics for a really long time, right?
I've been very unsuccessful for a very long time. That's right. I self-published my first comic in like '97,
okay,
and put out some books pretty steadily. Since then, I'll take a few years off and go write screenplays or do something else that interests me, and then I'll come back and go, well, I've still got that comic itch I got to scratch somehow. I just wrote Work for Hire guy. I thought I was done. Then I got a bunch of notes. I need to see if I can't figure out basically what the producer wants to stick into my awesome scripts. I've got to figure out how to make that work.
Yeah, I hear that can be a real problem with the screenwriting. A lot of producer input.
Well, this is a comic book, and the guy really is a huge Punchline fan, and he read Punch. I always wanted to do this. I got this comic book idea, and it's horror. And I said, well, I tend to shy away from horror because most horror stories fall apart if the characters are not just dumb as a post. And he said, well, see if you can make it work. So I did find a way to make it work, but he wants, one more twist element in there. And I'm like, all right, let me see if I can figure this out. So I think I've got room to make it work. But
wait, does he have the twist element idea, or he just has a number of twist elements that he wants in there?
Well, he sends me a lot of notes, and I don't want to say I didn't read them all, but he said, oh, that here, this note, this one right here, I really want this in my story. I'm like, okay, let me see if I can make it work.
Oh, it's kind of like skipping a cutscene.
Yes, something like that. But he had an interesting idea about the horror book. He said, he wanted to watch a horror movie with his kids, and all the horror movies have a lot of nudity and there's a lot of swearing. So he said, can you write a horror thing with some gory moments that's not full of F-bombs and titties? I'm like, yeah, I think I can do that. And he had an idea, and I pitched him 2 or 3 versions of it, and he ended up liking the one that's more like a game show. It's when you look at a project like Saw or something like that, they've taken a horror trope and turned it into a game show. So that's kind of what I did with the tone of like The Running Man or some of the funnier bits of that first RoboCop movie. So we'll see if we can get that produced and in front of people. His plan is to do a crowdfunding thing. So the script's done. I'm just waiting to see if we can get it made.
That sounds really, really interesting. I'm very intrigued.
It's different. I had to find a way to entertain myself with it because, most horror is, hey, there's a monster out there, let's split up and feed it. I wanted to have people actually being smart up against the monster. So
yeah,
we'll see if it works.
Yeah, I am. I like horror, but I tend to like old horror. The Universal monsters kind of stuff, or
Yeah.
even 60s B movies, which I think they just sometimes have more heart than a lot of. And so that's kind of stuff I like. So
I like seeing old Vincent Price horror movies, House of Wax, just kind of stuff where it's not just a lunatic chainsawing people. It's like, it's that classic, angry scientists getting even with the world kind of movie. Those are pretty good.
Somebody who's genuinely disturbed over something that is have a little bit of sympathy, but still judge them for it.
Speaking of like old school horror, I'm gonna make an attempt to name drop right now. The Bernie Wrightson, the old Frankenstein artist or whatever. I don't know if exactly what he's known for, but I just saw that one of his famous Frankenstein illustrations is about to like go for $1 million at auction or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that might even be setting records in two. Or also something like that.
A bunch of his stuff was in Guillermo del Toro's art collection, I think, maybe. There's some other big director had a whole bunch of Wrightson stuff, and they paid a lot for it at the time when they bought it. And now that it's on sale, it's it's blowing up. And I think a Frazetta painting brought in $5 or $6 million this year. So there's a lot of new money coming into old comic art, and it's really matches and gasoline on those art prices.
Well, I think one of the things you got to look at too with Wrightson is he just passed away 2 years ago, was it?
Yeah.
So I mean, he was. I mean, the Swamp Thing, DC's '70s horror stuff. I mean, all of that stuff that's just so that in that horror renaissance in comics had Wrightson's name attached. So
yeah, his stuff is really, really lush. Those first 10 issues of Swamp Thing are great. And if you can find little bits of stuff that he did in the horror books, there's that great cover with I think the fat one, Abel. He's looking at a candle in his hand, and it's so well rendered, just so beautiful. It's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, definitely awesome stuff. But,
just to kind of keep it going, whatever you guys have planned for the holidays, look out for the Indiegogo version of Punchline. I'm really kind of curious to see, because it's really awesome to see how many people pick up the individual issues. I'm really blown away at how well the Kickstarter did, and I'm like, I'm curious to see how many, and honestly I don't know how I'm going to measure it, but how many people are going to be interested in the Indiegogo. How many people were interested in the Kickstarter blew me away. And if those people are individual issue buyers or something like that, or just interested in trades, because one of the big selling points for our trade that we printed compared to the Antarctic Press trade that we had come out was we're going to try to do like a really awesome sketchbook section, completely exclusive to the fundraising or crowdfunding type and stuff like that. So I think people like that, and I got a lot of more stuff that I'm looking forward to putting in there this go around, so people can enjoy stuff like that.
So Bill, are you guys going to plan anything different for the Indiegogo version versus the Kickstarter version, or is it just released on a different platform?
I don't think so. That's a lot of work, and that's a lot of kind of micro targeting. I think we had something like a little over 200 backers on Kickstarter, and when we did our Indiegogo last year, we had like maybe 300 backers. I think we're just going to do a crowd-funded version and leave it at that. I mean, my attention span's pretty short on a good day, and having 3 or 4 versions of the book with the same name and same cover floating around are going to make me insane. So we're going to keep it as simple as possible, and print a bunch so that we can maybe for the next campaign we'll find a third crowdfunding site and see if we can't sell those people the first book all over again.
Or you can do what I do and make one book with 19 covers. Just fill them every month.
Matt's so fast. I think that's actually doable in this case.
Damn it, Brian! You're ruining the industry.
Oh, but no, it's like it was just such a mistake. Oh, it's such a mistake. Hey, Brian, make that a cover. Sure. What about this one? Yeah, for sure. Why not? It's not that much. I should never have done that.
What was the mistake? Like that? Did the printer lose his mind, or was it, or just having a?
It was just how like having so many books to just get fulfilled and ship out, and having to pay for each shipment of all that. When that could have been money I could have thrown somewhere else. Like I was really hoping to get some Mr. Lister Sister Fister artwork done this year, but it looks like it's not going to start till next year, unfortunately.
Oh yeah.
There's a whole lot of stuff to start shutting down ahead of the holidays. You know, that time between Thanksgiving and Christmas is almost a dead zone in most businesses.
Hey,
Yep.
Tim, can you see that?
Yes, holy cow.
Check out the pig sticker and
Big sticker.
What a
funny
bunny
you drew him
actually
with the
use a
knife.
pig sticker?
That
Yeah.
is a big knife.
So
yeah, it might be too big.
So
No,
I
it's fine.
shot you guys that initial script for our crossover thing, right?
Mm-hmm. The
Yeah.
first.
Yeah. That's my favorite part. Like the end, it's like, oh no, they give you thumbs.
Yeah, because he don't have thumbs.
Oh, he's got
That's
thumbs
for sure.
now. Oh,
Oh,
I gotta
snap.
get that I gotta get that thing concepted out so I can do the other thing that I was planning on doing.
Yeah, we gotta get that bun shot out. So you want to talk about misadvertisement? I put that on that poster we did last year.
Yeah,
Coming 2019.
I
Here
did
we
say like this year was going to be crazy, and we were still focused on other things.
You
I
were
also never agreed
totally
to a date.
open about it. Yeah.
I never agreed to a date.
Now,
It's not my
that
fault.
actually is a fun little.
It will get done. I swear to God, it will get done.
That's all right.
I think that
2020. I'm happy with
So
that.
I'm
It's
sorry,
just-
I got distracted because something funny came into the chat. Eliza Barr says Brian drew the line on my Jackson Pollock inspired cover design for Rag's book.
Yeah,
Nice.
Nice.
I felt that was a little too much, a little too far, and I have standards.
As a former Wyomingite, I approve of not using Jackson Pollock for a comic cover.
Oh.
I mean, yeah, it's, some things just should never be done.
No, they should not. But that was talking about the poster and everything is a decent crossover to one of the things I was hoping to talk to today. Not crossover, segue. You guys are doing a book together where the Black Hops and the Punchline and the Rags Regina have a confluence of adventure.
Yes, so
What was that?
I'm going to take full responsibility of this because I just want to preface this with Rags wasn't written like a normal comic book. It was more after I got rejected by IDW, it was written more for like the web, and so I've had to condense everything down to fit the more traditional comic book format. And you'll notice this if you start actually flipping through our books. You'll have like a book that's like 24 pages, 36 pages, 48, and then so on and so forth. So that's been an adventure, getting everything condensed down so it doesn't affect the story, while also like my team's international, so it's getting everybody to do what they're supposed to do when they're supposed to do at the right time. So yeah, that's totally my fault.
Dude, I wouldn't put yourself out there like that. I don't think you did anything wrong. You're just an ambitious guy. Like I'm the same way. I have big plans. Like I've tried to take on a lot too. I mean, what was that other thing that you shot me not too many months ago? It was
Black Nito.
no,
Black Nito's
I mean,
Revenge.
it was the wait, no, it was before that. It was there were 3 Power Ranger type characters from the old Arctic Press days. What were they?
Zetraman.
I just dug that. I was digging through some stuff and I forgot all about that.
I actually forgot I asked you about that too.
So I don't even know what this is, and I'm all curious now. What is
Okay,
this?
so way back in the day, Antarctic Press was releasing like Gold Digger, Ninja High School, and a bunch of other random independent books. But Ben Dunn actually drew the pre-Power Rangers right before they got really popular, and they were called Zetraman. They were powered by steam, and for some reason, I always just kind of love that team. They had like Zetra, red, blue, yellow, and black, and I don't know. It was just a nice little weird, quirky story, and they needed steam in order to transform. And we've actually based Operator's appearance off of Zetra Blue. Huh. Major Easter egg.
That's dope.
Oh yeah, I told Ben that, and he's like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yes. Look at Operator, then look at Mikey. They're like It's the exact same face. So yeah, I just kind of wanted to do kind of like a nod to Zetraman using Versima and Regina and forgot who else I said in that little
Yeah,
thing.
I can't remember either. But I just remember Ben Dunn. He seemed to be jazzed about it. He tweeted it out or reshared it somewhere online somewhere. And I mean, he's got a bunch going on too. But I mean, if we ever get around to all that stuff, I mean, I would love to get my mitts on so many different things. So I'm in the same boat as you, man. But I just want to put it out there. I wouldn't take any guff from any of these swine.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tim, get off my balls.
No. Here's the difference, though. And this is why we're just busting your balls. No one's paid anything yet, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it doesn't matter how late you are because it's not like anything out at the moment.
Well, if they donated $4 to my Indiegogo campaign, I would be late as
But I mean, and speaking as a fan, right? I mean, you guys teased this way back when, and I mean, part of the thing is like I was already reading Punchline, I was already reading Rags. I hadn't really been bit by the Black Ops bug yet, but when I saw that poster that with those on there, I was just like, this is a universe. I love universes. I have to learn more about how this could possibly work.
Yeah.
And I will say,
one of the cornerstones of the Punchline world is that I'm stealing this directly from Grant Morrison, that everything is true, every story is true, every story happened, and that the kind of the lines between the worlds are kind of thin. So we feel like bringing in analogs and playing with them, and doing what characters start dimension hopping and hanging out with Versima, and having little adventures with people going to and from a horror based world where a superhero gets chopped up for parts, and just random stuff happening. It's more fun to have a big universe to play in rather endlessly navel gazing because you never leave your hometown.
Dang, Bill, I honestly was wondering about you, how you thought about that too, because I kind of was thinking the same thing. I mean, there's really no place that didn't think that our characters should really go. Man, I'm glad we could work that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's the healing power of Black Nino.
And I actually
this is his
have
mutant powers healing.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say, like, Regina and USAGI are going to be permanently connected because Tim was so gracious as to give Regina her first comic book appearance.
What?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's something like not a lot of people know. Yeah, right in the background.
So yeah, and I saw that in my Hero Macadamia, which is and there's you guys got tons of cameos in that book. It's insane, all of that stuff. But,
yeah, there are a lot of cameos. Actually, I try to put cameos in everything because my thing is, especially if like we're friends, I always want to put like my friend stuff in our works. And the thing about whatchamacallit, about Black Ops and Rags is, first of all, Brian gave me my first like freelance gig as far as like independent comics commissions are concerned, and in return I took an idea from him and it worked out because he's going to work it into the crossover, which is I took one of his emblems, like one of his concept designs for the bunny signet that is used for Rags, and so I showed it to Brian and he was like, oh, I'm going to work this in somehow. And sure enough, in like the crossover, there's mention of the fact that Regina and USAGI actually had shared history together, where she's basically like, "You stole my logo," and he's like,
my
"No,
logo, you stole my underwear."
right." So it works out. I think part of it is, I think of all of us, probably Brian's character has the deepest lore because there's like higher stakes involved. But I think initially it was like you can pretty much do anything with our character because there's not a lot that's going to happen. I'm like, these characters aren't going to die anytime between the next 4 issues or 4 volumes or whatever.
Yeah, there's
So
not a lot of
made it
people that
easier.
I trust more than like Tim and Brian to like do stuff with my characters.
Oh, challenge accepted.
I
meant thank you. I meant thank you.
Well, and if you're gonna give him opposable thumbs, like in our next volume, someone's gonna be like, "Did you have opposable thumbs?" And it's like, no, that was fake news. We don't know where you heard that.
No, he's like a Stitch, you know. He could pop him out and pop him in.
He can pop them out.
Look.
Pop out
Okay.
his thumb.
All I'm gonna say with this is, Matt, Tekkaman Blade. Think Tekkaman Blade. That's kind of where I'm going with this.
So
stop it.
Yes.
That actually changed. Brings up one.
Sorry. I started weaving out.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, but that's
He flipped out. It's just so nuts. Like what Brian, I just over the last year or two since I was introduced online, there's just the number of instances and properties and things that Brian's been dropping over that period of time is like the purest definition of my upbringing in youth. Like Brian, for some reason, like just knows things and seemed like he was there at the exact period in the exact same places when I was growing up, you know, just certain animes, video games, guns, just everything. It's just, you know, so yeah.
Oh, kind of like when Tim was explaining what he wanted for Penelope, what sort of weapon he wanted Penelope to use. He's like, X95. I was like, oh, that's a 4. The X95. Yeah, Operator uses that. He's like, what? You know exactly? Yeah. So if I can share my screen, I'm just gonna spoil one thing.
I wanted to see if there was a way to work that in too, because we haven't introduced Penelope with the gun yet, but that is going to happen in Volume 3.
So this is my only spoiler for the crossover.
My gosh,
MacGyver.
That's awesome. I'm not going to explain what this is, but
what the freak am I looking at?
It's bio boosted.
Oh my gosh,
bio boosted.
That's glorious.
And that's all I'm gonna spoil. That's it.
I am smitten. Like you're just getting ahead of me. There's just so many things that, like I said, and that's why just for so long, like Brian's had like my he's just kind of had me. I'll never forget. Like I never mentioned this, but whenever I saw Regina and Brian just a long time ago, and she was packing that G36C, because I'm like an HK guy. I actually have a G36C, like a real one, and but it's a civilian version. I you have to take the SL8 receiver and put it on the body of and everything like that. So, but it was like my life's dream, and it was like all that working up to that point, and then when I saw Regina and just Brian and everything that he represented, it was over for us.
Yeah, I'm very specific about the weaponry in Rags, and you'll notice that there's hardly any M4. Like there's like one M4.
Yeah.
But there's no Glocks. There's no Glocks. It's all CZ, and the CZs are a reference to Gunsmith Cats.
Oh my God! Stop it right now. Stop it.
So, look. If you look at Regina's listen. Like if you look at Regina's tattoos, like right on her waistline, those are actually 2 CZ75s. And the reason why I chose the CZ75 was Gunsmith Cats had this little storyline with Rally trying to chase a CZ. Was it CZ Bravo? Yeah, it was like the CZ Bravo. And back in those days, getting a CZ in America was very, very rare. So it was kind of like the I don't want to say like the golden gun, but it was just like the holy grail of handguns back in the time at the day. And so that's kind of me.
That's another testimony of what I'm talking about. Like, how the freak are you dropping Gunsmith Cats?
No, it's even crazier. We were having this discussion yesterday. So Mark and I, there was only one final thing we had to nail down with the Common American script, because I just started working on it. So now I'm 3 pages in, and we have a gun shop. And we couldn't come up with the name of the gun shop. And so I told Mark, I was like, we're going to call it Vincent's Guns and Ammo. And he was like, where did Vincent come from? I was like, Rally Vincent from Gunsmith Cats. So we all have like these peculiar tastes.
Awesome.
You guys all know what this is, but I don't. And maybe
Gunsmith Cats is amazing.
Oh, because you just...
What is Gunsmith Cats?
Dude,
If you don't know,
it was
don't
Cowboy Bebop before Cowboy Bebop was cool.
there's even a really excellent comic book series out about it too, and I mean excellent. But yeah, I believe the artist's name is Kennedy Sonata or something like that.
Yeah, Kanata Sonata or something.
Kenny Sonata or something like that.
Yeah.
Anyways, gosh dang it. There you go again, Brian.
So, see, the
I
reason I
apologize for
asked
nothing.
is that
And
way
what?
I like to spread the love. So if you guys have a passion for a thing, then maybe the people in the chat, people watching on the replay, will find it and be able to appreciate a whole new thing.
Yeah.
Hey Brian, do you like Black Lagoon?
Yes, I love Revy.
Wow.
I just discovered that I watched it last week, and I was like, this reminds me. It's like a darker version of Gunsmith Cats, flavor wise.
Yeah, she's nuts. She's nuts.
I also like Dutch. Dutch is the dude.
I just like him because he's black.
Look, I don't get much representation, so I take what I can get. Okay.
I like him too. I like Dutchy.
So back to the thing from before. One question I have always had. You guys were talking about the confluence between USAGI and Regina, and when I first had Tim on the show, I asked what is up with the bunny logo, because it looks like the bunny logo from Rags, which I've also never understood. Why it's a rabbit skull. I don't get this. Can I get an answer to that, or is that just a mystery I have to discover?
Okay, look, all right. So I don't think you guys will actually get this. How do I explain this to civilians? So, in the Army, we have these great group of guys who are called mortarmen, artillery.
Okay.
And they're very lovingly called gun bunnies, right?
Okay.
And so the joke is that these bunny skulls are covering Regina's naughty bits or her guns, and so they're gun bunnies.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
I dig. Yeah.
See, that makes sense.
I guess you have to be there. You have to be there.
And then what happened was, again, it's the same story from before, where I had seen all the various icons that Brian had come up with, and I saw one that I really liked, one that he was not using for the main art. So I repurposed it, and then I showed it to Brian. I was like, "Hey, can we use this?" And he was like, "Yeah, sure." And then, lo and behold, it turns out that we can actually work it in story-wise into his script, which he did, which was, awesome. So that's essentially how that came out, or came to be.
So before I knew the Gun Bunny thing, which I just learned, I found this cover on Mile High Comics.
I don't
and
get
I
it.
wondered if that had anything to do with it, but it does not.
No, it doesn't. So, okay, well, there's this other thing that we had. Let me open that folder. Where'd you go? Boom. Yeah, there we go. All right. Share my screen. Make sure it's safe for this good Christian scream. All right, there we go. So, these are our three main characters, and one of the things that I wanted to do is this originally was going to be like a Punisher skull, but I couldn't actually use the Punisher skull on stuff I was going to try and sell, so that's where the bunny skull actually originated from. And then as I started putting it on our website and sharing it around, I was like, you know what? I can make this artillery joke and be hilarious. And so that's the progression of it.
Cool.
I'm so sad you guys will never get to meet her. She was funny.
Yeah, I remember seeing that way back. I can't wait to tell my wife.
Things that comes back to another point in all of that is, oh my goodness, Brian, you still there? I hit the wrong screen.
What? Yeah, I'm still here. Oh, great! I'm the left nut now.
I dropped
Finally
the
the right
for a second. So, from the chat, Eliza Barr says, "How did Tim just now learn about Black Lagoon?" I have no idea.
He's not.
I'll answer that. So I actually knew about it, but because, like, for example, I grew up in a kind of a relatively small city, and so the only way to get anime was basically just to go to Suncoast and pay like $40 a DVD to get it
for a VHS.
for a VHS, and so
With
I
only
never
2 episodes on it.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, you just said what I'd say.
So I never grew up watching anime, and so like I'd always seen Black Lagoon like on ads, and it was like a cult classic, but I never got around to watching it. And then I just got Funimation about 2 weeks ago as a subscription, and it's there, the whole thing, including like the movie. So I just binge watched it, and I did the whole thing in about 4 days. So I knew about it, I just hadn't seen it.
Right. Yeah.
Disappointment. You could have just gone to China. God damn it! I said I wouldn't be racist again.
Hey, the good stuff is in Koreatown, not China.
Got the bootlegs.
Tomato kimchi. Anyway.
I'll never forget my first comic book conventions way back. Like the bootlegs were plentiful. Sometimes they were bad though. They were so badly bootlegged though. A lot of them.
I also grew up in a small city, right, in western Nebraska. I did not make it to a con until I started going to them to sell things. I'd never been to a con.
Really?
And that was just a few years ago. So I didn't have any of those, young boy at the con and having the world open up for him experiences or anything like that. That's something that I had people say, don't work the back of the table first. Go as a fan first. And I was like, if I'm going to spend money, I want to try to make money.
True that.
I've been doing the I was talking about formatting for the web. I've been doing web comics with our little group of folks since 2006. So it's been one of those things where I've pretty much my entire adult life have been working at failing at comics. So.
Dang.
Been there.
Yeah, been there. Like It took me, God, what year is this?
19.
So like 5 years to get any traction with this book.
Yeah, but oh gosh.
I mean, I've put like $8,000 of my own money just to like hiring artists who've ghosted me or didn't listen to what I actually wanted and did their own thing.
Yeah.
Which funny story, the last artist that ghosted me is how I met Luigi.
Oh snap.
So that might not be worth it. I don't know. Luigi seems like found money. The guy's perfect for the look.
Oh, he most definitely made up for it. I will say like when we first were interacting with each other, it was very antagonistic and hostile. And now it's I'll just give you the TLDR. Like now we're just like best buds. It's like, hey man, my wife's going to the hospital. I'll be gone for a couple days. Like, oh well, I got like $40 left. Take this and just make sure you guys are okay.
Oh, yeah.
And just like.
So antagonistic because from both of you each, or just from you from having these bad experiences?
Mostly from my alter ego Daquan. So okay, so like there's like 3 different personalities of Brian. There's Brian, there's Sergeant Ball, and then there's Daquan. Daquan's like the evil one. And that's the one that like says all the mean, evil, hateful stuff, and we don't like him. We try to keep him in the closet with the beautiful clothes. Like that's where he needs to be. But what happened was it was like Luigi's protege had ghosted me, and I'd spent like $1,700 to get him to do this little project for me. That I was gonna hire him on to do rags, but the guy ended up just vanishing for like a year. And Luigi actually came back and contacted me with like, hey, so and so, they're in the hospital doing this, and this, and then this is their problems. And I was like, I don't care, I just want my money back. And it was just really, really evil and mean. And then, yeah, I wasn't nice.
Yeah.
But now, flash forward like a couple of years, and it's like he'll message me. He's like, hey, is it possible to get advance? Like, yeah, sure. I get paid like 8 days, so just here, take the last of my paycheck. I don't care.
Nice.
Yeah.
So
it's
wait, you're talking about Luigi?
Yeah.
Because I don't know if because I remember seeing some other artwork.
Yeah, there was definitely some other artwork, not as good.
I mean, it definitely had its own thing, but man, I mean, for real, like Luigi is gonna. I mean, you guys just everything you put together, things I guess happen for a reason, So
Yeah,
I think
I just can't
Sometimes
wait
that reason
till.
is the dude ghosts on you too. Yeah.
Oh, well, stuff. Yeah, you just
no,
you have to
honestly,
go to your third ego. I
I
can't
honestly
wait
think there's
for
something
you
more than
guys to
that
see
because
what he does in issue 6. It's just so beautiful. Just
I
this whole
cannot wait.
sequence.
Mm.
I told Brian this, but I'll share the story. I told Brian this on Twitter, but I'll share the story here. I was getting rags at a shop in one state over in Wyoming because I couldn't get them here in my town for whatever reason. The shop I have doesn't go through Diamond; they go through somebody who has a contract with Diamond. That service, so this play other company services smaller shops that can't order the Diamond minimum, right? And for a while, Antarctic wasn't on the list at all, so I couldn't get any books then. So I was driving Wyoming, once a month or whatever to pick up Punchline and Rags. But with the scheduling and everything, they lost my order or didn't fill it out or whatever to get 5, but I was expecting them to get it. So when I went down for Thanksgiving, I was like, okay, I'm here to get Rags 5. And they're like, we don't have it. I was like,
Gosh, dang it.
Oh, sorry. Well,
so
if that ever happens again, you just send me a DM and I'll shoot you one of.
yeah, well,
one of ours over.
I actually I got one coming from another shop online. I went ahead and sent them the money. So
Well, that's kind of wacky. It just seems like recently, like everybody was all was doing fairly decent as far as the shops go of getting stuff, but more recently, like shops are not getting, especially like the smaller ones. Like
well, 6.
Bill, yeah,
I-
I can maybe tell you a little bit more about it. He was dealing with one around here that was just like, I ordered so many. We go to the local big shop in town, and they got racks full of them. But I call my diamond guy, and I don't know what the deal is. I can't get mines.
There's a couple of
Really?
jokes with guys that have comic shops. Whenever they get shorted on their books, they just say, "I guess Midtown put it in a late order." Diamond, they play favorites. It's not a fair or equitable system. And when you're with a small publisher, you kind of have to take what you can get.
Yeah.
So I don't
man,
know how
that's-
small of a comic shop that was you were dealing with, but I mean,
It was a pretty
it's
small
a common tale. It's
yeah.
a tragic tale, but
Yeah, the way I mitigate that is through the Rags Facebook page or the Instagram. If any of the fans message me, it's like, hey, I was trying to get issue 4, but my shop won't order it or whatever. I was like, all right, just give me your mailing address and I'll shoot you one over.
nice. That's excellent.
Yeah, I thought about contacting you directly, but I also wanted to try to get a couple of other things. So I was like, if shipping, I might as well pay shipping once than twice. So
Yeah, fair. With me, you only have to pay shipping once.
well, of course, but if I also wanted to get issue 1 and 6 of the Mira miniseries,
Oh, yeah.
you're not going to have that.
Oh, no, give me a couple days. I can do
Maybe.
anything. What do you need? What do you need?
Resourceful.
The wheeler and
I
the
might know
dealer,
somebody
I
who knows
like
somebody.
I'm people who know people.
I love it. So I started asking this earlier, and I got myself distracted talking about stuff. But the idea of I know Bill mentioned the mechanic of them working together, but what was the origin of the idea of doing this 3-way crossover? I mean,
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and blame HP Comic Collage for this.
Oh, that's so accurate.
Yep.
She's been bugging me for like months. Hey, you need to check out this Punchline book. You need to check out this Punchline book. Like, no, I don't want to do it. She's like, no, you need to check it out. Like, no. She's like, but they're good. Like, no. And then eventually I checked it out. I was like, oh, yeah, it's pretty neat. Oh, cool. There's a Battle Angel reference. All right, I like these guys. So then she drew this little rinky-dink fan art of all of our characters interacting, and then Matt drew a thing of all of our characters it was Versima, Kane, Regina, but the weapon was in the wrong hand. I was like, weapons in the wrong hand.
I
That's
feel
the quantum.
horrible
Sorry
about that too.
No, it's fine. I'm an asshole.
I got to redo that too, because that was the beginning of all manner of interactions and wackiness to ensue.
Yeah, so then it just became this really weird art share of trying to one up each other. And then ta-da!
Yeah, HP. Yeah, she tried to back out of any accountability, but that's pretty true. I was very happy about it too. It was all kinds of cool, and was kind of started this idea that I had on our first Indiegogo campaign, was to put a fan art section in our book also too. And she's responsible for our manner of headache and
Yes.
trifling troubles and origins. But she's one of our biggest supporters. She's really kind of helped us network and get everything off the ground. Like, I can't even tell you how essential she was in the genesis of things, I guess, if I could put it, into words. So
Yeah, most definitely. Once I get this Patreon thing figured out, I need to hire her again. So what I do is I'll mail her a bunch of books, and then I'll give her a list of Patreons to make collages for, and just pay her to go do that for those guys.
that would be
That's
awesome.
been very popular.
Dang.
I also forced her at gunpoint to write the outline for this thing. So
Nice.
Hey,
I mean, it was her idea to begin with. It was like, all right, well, here, you do the outline, and then I'll just go from there.
Well, and see, and that's one of the things I think is so great about all of each of your little fan bases. And first of all, there's fun crossover, but within the fan bases. But additionally, you guys get such engagement out of it that it's just fun to watch. How many people are stoked about it. And I mean, I know I'm one of those too, so I appreciate it too. But I have very little in the way of art skill, and I wouldn't try my hand at Regina. That would just be awful. But yeah, I might.
Well, I hear that, just to put it out there, I don't know if she catch up with this stream or not, but I know that she's working on her own property too. So I'm just
Good for her.
for everything that she kind of led us to. I hope she lets me kind of return the favor and do something for her.
Yeah,
That's one of the benefits of owning. That's one of the benefits of owning your own characters. You've got a buddy that's got an interesting character. You can sort of do a crossover. You don't have to have a bunch of meetings. You can just start making comics.
Yeah, definitely, and that's a fun aspect. Now, being part of the webcomics world for a while, I've gotten the benefit of that every once and again too, on a much smaller scale. Because once again, I'm a little fish.
Oh, I'm a little fish too. Don't worry,
dude.
Yeah.
Like yours. I know you feel that way, but your stuff's like total pro quality. Like,
It's the racism. It's what makes it pro.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Thank you, but like 90% of like everything we do is like done on the weekend, and we're just like it was more like a hobby. We like the way the presentation and the way our book is done gets us in trouble because everybody thinks like, oh, you're like some industry pro that's probably been doing this for years and now you finally got your one-hit wonders. Like, no, I did this 4 years ago and just was winging it as I went along, and here we are.
Yeah.
Well, I think part of that speaks to I think there's a certain level of quality that a lot of fan and these more amateur productions have from people that have been long-term comic readers and long-term consumers of that type of visual media, because they kind of understand the language somewhat. I don't think everybody that reads comics necessarily can make a good comic, but I think there's some of that the right kind of reader who picks up on those details and who pays attention to it can really be a thing. It's something I've talked about a lot on stream because it's come up, but I know that my wife is a big fan of the Flaming Carrot, and I hadn't really been exposed to it at all or looked at it at all until a couple of years ago. I started reading through more of them, and I think it's I'm going to forget her first name, but Star, who does it's Karen Star. No, it's not.
Oh crap.
That's Power Girl.
I can't
Anyway, she does the lettering for the Flaming Carrot, and studying how she did lettering has changed the way I've lettered my webcomic drastically. Just looking at how she uses word placement and balloon structure and all that kind of stuff is something I hadn't really picked up on, even though I've been reading comics my whole life.
Oh
I
yeah,
think that
lettering itself is its whole nother art form. I've been lettering the last 2 or 3 of our books, and the way I learned to letter was I just watched a couple of YouTube videos trashing us for our lettering. I was like, all right, well then I have to go look at somebody else's book and see how they do it, and just copy that.
yeah.
So yeah,
Cerebus is great.
so if
Find that
lettering
a great
sucks
way
and
to
drags, it's all
check
my
out some
fault.
lettering. Yeah. The lettering on Cerebus is pretty amazing. Dave Sim was doing great work on that. I've lettered off and on for a while, but I took a comics experience course and got a little bit better at that. So I've been lettering Punchline for a while now. I enjoy that. My sound effects still suck, but the dialogue's pretty good.
Well, one of the things I think that you really have going for Punchline, Bill, is that you are very good at the efficiency of language. You know your characters say enough to get the point across and to have their voice, but not so much that it in any way feels burdensome. I think
that's the difference between people saying everything that's really at the top of their mind and people sort of talking around topics. In Into Blood Sisters, you've seen Mel's capacity for violence, and you can tell at the end of the book they're pretty mad at each other, and Versima's kind of freaked out after having to talk to a Fed for a while, and there's this kind of, for me, was kind of a chilling panel. Mel's just looking at Versima, and she says, "What did you tell the Feds?" And you can tell that behind that there's a whole lot of stuff going on. Mel's, gauging and measuring and trying to figure out what's going to happen next. But there's, you can say a lot with silence. You can say a lot when characters are sort of talking past each other too.
Well, one of the things that's really poignant about that too in Mel's character is she keeps everything close to the chest, right?
Yeah.
Because she's guarded, she's broken in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's a big factor with all of that. So
she's a huge mess. Yeah, she's fun.
Yeah. So, when you set out, here's a question that I have for you as far as the craft of it. When you set out to write Punchline, did you completely know how much of a mess Mel was, or is that something that has taken more shape as you've gone along?
That's one of those things you can kind of embroider a little bit as you're going along. I really liked O'Donnell's origin story for Modesty Blaze. He was in, I think, Italy in World War II, and he saw a refugee kid who was all grown up and tough and still kind of girlish in a way, and he thought, I'll make that girl a crime boss and then an agent. So you got, that early female Bond character, and I thought, what if I took that broken refugee kid and made her a superpowered individual? So that's kind of where Mel is, and that's, we'll start digging into a little bit of, why she's pretty jacked up. And I think I'm going to make some people cry at the end of Punchline 12. So, I've been, kind of moving pieces into place. And I thought, on the other side of that coin, who would be the perfect candidate to be somebody who you would give superpowers to? It would be somebody who had experienced a personal loss. It was somebody whose heart's in the right place. They just didn't have enough, oomph to change the world. And that would be the kind of person you would, put at the top of your candidate list.
And that's a really interesting idea too, because the question then becomes, is just because somebody is needy doesn't necessarily mean they will manage power well.
True.
That whole, power tends to corrupt, but absolute power corrupts absolutely. It's a cliche for a reason, So,
it's funny because it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was telling Matt last time he was down here that I hadn't, despite having been on the Twitter for a little while, I didn't know about Punchline. It hadn't something been across my radar, but I saw it sitting on a shelf, and that first cover and the name of it and everything caught my interest, and I read the first 3 pages and I was hooked. And one of the things that I thought was a great aspect about all of that was you could tell the world had some depth to it. You know, there was a thickness to the construction of it, and I was and being a fan of universes, and I like the idea of consistent, not necessarily limited, but somewhat limited universes that have set rules and set histories, and I love alternate history stuff.
Yeah.
So Grant Morrison gets on my nerves, but for that reason, because he tends to disrespect anybody who's not Grant Morrison in his writing. But I also like the idea of having a world that's big enough to have almost anything happen in it. And you can definitely tell that just the whole exchange between Mel and Versama in that first book was something that I had to see the rest of it. I wanted to know the way the powers would work. I wanted to know what would motivate somebody to hold on to the point where they were injured or were causing injury to themselves. I was really interested in finding out who would be in a position to injure somebody who was as powerful as Mel had been. And that's something.
Mel's pretty self-destructive, and she finds a variety of ways to act out on that. I'm like I said, I'm not a huge horror fan, but I really was fascinated by Cabin in the Woods because there's this big architecture behind the lead story. It's about averting the end of the world with some sort of bizarre human sacrifice, and I wanted to set up the world of Punchline where it has some architecture behind it, and you've got people out doing interesting stuff. And as time goes by, we kind of pull aside that curtain, and you can see how things function and kind of why things function the way they do. It adds kind of a level of richness to what the characters are doing.
And one of the things that I've loved about the way you've done that so far is sorry, Rumble Terrier is in the chat. He says this is the ultimate panel. Sweet. Also tell Trent to skip the cutscene.
Yeah, that's right. You don't need to read the mission. Just go shoot things in the face. Bang, bang.
Yep.
So, but back to that seems like an un-Regina sentiment.
What? Bang, bang?
No, not that. The skipping the mission plans.
Yeah. I don't need to know what it is. We're just gonna go shoot people. Yay!
But back to Punchline. One of the things that I think is really fun that you've done is you have all of this neat background stuff, but you've left these breadcrumbs along the way so that it's not just like an info dump in issue 2 where you're like, okay, by the way, here's what makes our universe different. Dump. You've left those along to entice the reader as you go to try to piece things together as it is. And as a big mystery fan, that's one thing I've really liked too. So.
And scene.
Bill, are you there?
And scene.
I don't know. I think he may have locked up. That was awkward. I had this big thing, and
that was good, man. It was freaking.
Yeah.
Hey, bravo! I loved it.
I don't need to pause. I just want to hear Bill's reaction.
Oh, maybe he was so overwhelmed that
he's getting a tissue right now.
Like he's in tears.
That's exactly what I wanted. Nobody said that at all.
Yeah. Just like if anybody ever finds this golden Easter egg, I'm going to probably cry literal tears because it's been in everyone's faces for the last 5 issues.
See, that bugs me because I haven't found it either. So.
Yeah, I don't think anybody will.
Well, Bill looks like he left, so maybe he'll come. Maybe
I've lost my other half.
So I do have a question that I'm probably not going to get an answer to. But what is up with the unicorn thing, Brian?
What?
The unicorn thing. You've got
just wait till the rhino thing hits.
Oh, wait till the rhino thing. Yeah. Rhino.
It's
so what's your question again?
What is up with the unicorn thing? Okay. Now I understand what's happening here. Fine. Just say, no, Matthew, you don't get to know this. That's fine.
All good things come to those that wait. And all must wait for the masturbate.
So I dropped in the middle of something that sounded interesting.
No.
I got it. Poor Matthew.
I got to
It
see if
wasn't
I can remember what I was talking about now. I just got a massively shut down on a question that's been bugging me for a year, but that's okay.
Wow. We were talking
I
about
mean,
the
I was
architecture
flattered.
behind the worlds. Yeah.
Yeah. What I was going to say, what I'd said was one of the things that I really appreciated about the way you've laid out the sequence of events in Punchline, not in plot wise, but in terms of the architecture of the world and the underlying ideas behind it are just breadcrumbs that have been laced along the way, so that the reader, myself in this case, has gone along and been like, "Ooh, this is a tidbit. Ooh, this is a tidbit," rather than having a big exposition dump in issue
Yeah.
2 that makes you be like, "Here's the secrets of my world." It's been it's been a natural progression, and I think that goes really because that's something that Versem has been dealing with too, because for all she knew, the world was normal before that.
Well, this is something I didn't come right out and say in the book, but after Mel gets fired, she really wants her job back. So she's just kind of keeping an eye on the kid and helping a little bit. See if she screws up. She can, see if she can't weasel her way back in. And the thing that happens in between issues 5 and 6 is that she realizes that this is kind of her new reality. And if she wants to continue to be a player, she has to make up with the kid and kind of apologize for being an asshole. So she gives a very narrow apology for what she's done, which Jesse decides to accept. So, when, Mel's done, you could say terrible things depending. She says, she doesn't say, "I'm sorry, I'll never do it again." She says, "I'm sorry for using you to get revenge on my enemies. I won't do it again." That doesn't mean she's going to stop getting revenge on her enemies. She's just not going to drag the kid into it. So she didn't have a fundamental change of heart. She just thought, well, I need to make up. I can probably get by with just this much of an apology. We'll see where this goes.
Right. And so that actually brings a slight side question to this too. You have a world populated by other heroes and characters and all that kind of stuff. Is that a situation? I mean, like, what decisions have you gone into with picking what kind of characters went into that?
Well, for Punchline, I wanted to
think the Blue Beetle, the character, I thought was a really interesting addition.
Yeah, that Beetle Girl character is owned by another guy, and I like the concept of found art. And what he does is he basically just has that Beetle Girl character, and other people show up and they say, "Hey, can we team up with Beetle Girl?" And he says, "Sure, we'll just both put out the book and get paid." As far as I can tell, that's kind of what he does. He gives some guidance, but he doesn't have to hire a lot of artists. He just basically says, "Hey, I've got this cool character who wants to borrow it." And that character is I guess, the granddaughter of the original Blue Beetle, who had a shirt as light as silk and strong as steel. The old radio character.
And he's a public domain now.
Yeah, not really used by DC at this point. He hadn't really caught any grief from them, so I reached out and I said, "Hey, I like your character. You want to figure out how to do something with him?" And I was going to write a little 11-page story, and I said, "I'm having a hard time breaking this." He said, "Just write it like it's a Marvel team up. They meet, they fight, they get along." I'm like, "All right, I can do that." So sometimes you get up against a stump, and it's not a bad thing to say, "Hey, you want to throw me a breadcrumb so I can work this out?" Because if the goal is just to make awesome comics, sometimes you depend on your coworkers.
El Crotto says IP licensing at its finest.
True.
So, now the other thing I noticed is Matt. The other day, I don't know why I got on this, but I was looking through the last summer's Kickstarter for the Gladstones.
Oh yeah.
Thingam what's it?
That was a really
School
wacky...
for World Conquerors or something.
Yeah.
Well, that was what you're thinking of. I think is probably a little one-shot book that it was. They're taking all the characters from the Gladstones series and they're just breaking it off and kind of doing a little intro to the character one-shot stuff. So I think there might be more, but that was the one that they asked me to do, and They got other artists working on the other ones, but yeah.
Well, the thing I noticed about it specifically was that the other character on the cover had the flower petal dress thing,
Oh yeah,
and so
yeah.
was that the same character?
Okay, yeah, that's a really, really good catch. I a long time ago, I actually drew that one-shot issue probably close to like 7 years ago, maybe approximately.
Wow.
But I designed that character a long time ago, and I told them they needed a little villainess to kind of play the role of just the nefarious character, just to come in for the one shot and just maybe probably never be seen again. But I had this character design. I'm like, all right, you guys can use this one, but she's mine, just so you know. Like, this is my character design, and I was like, I'm gonna do other things with her. But I don't know what happened in between. I know that one of the head creators of the series, he actually lives and works in like Thailand. He bounces over to Afghanistan, China, just all different, Hong Kong, like just all over the place. He's an English teacher, and he's a wild man. He just runs around. But he, for whatever reason, it's been so long. He was working in so many different areas. He just gotten around to it and just like, hey, yeah, let's throw a campaign for it. And it just happened to be right around the same couple of months that I was like introducing her in Punchline too. So it is the same character, kind of. But yeah, really, really wacky story. And I mean, totally random occurrence,
That is a wild thing, but it's such a distinct design that I was like, wait a second, I've seen this.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I plagiarized myself.
Well,
always steal from the best, right?
It is 9:00. It's an awkward place to kind of close things out, but it is about time. Bill, do you know when you're going to be launching the Indiegogo? Next week or so, or?
I think it's going to be next week. We're picking up and doing a one-day pop-up show for a charity somewhere in Baytown this weekend, so I don't get back into Austin. I take off tomorrow, crack it down. I don't get back until Sunday, so I would say sometime early next week. Matt had some ideas for the next campaign, so I may run it past him and then get some good feedback from him before we launch it. So I'd look at it sometime next week.
Okay, cool.
Gonna be good.
Tim, you guys have got the Common America is your next project, right?
That is correct.
And when are we looking at that so we can start the hype building now here at the show today?
Well, here's the funny thing. So I'm doing a new style with it. It's experimental from my perspective, but it allows me to work pretty efficiently where I can draw, color, and letter a page in 8 hours. So I've already finished 3 pages ever since Tuesday, roughly. Yeah. Because it's a lot more simplistic style, but I like it because I think it's more suited to my strengths. With Black Ops 2, I was actually trying to copy Matt Weldon a little bit. I was trying to copy Matt Senpai, and
I noticed that.
I know. I just realized I was like, but it's Matt Senpai, which means that he has his own way of doing things. I have to find my own path.
Dude.
So I started. If you've looked at all the stuff I've been doing for Instagram and for like, what do they call it, Inktober, then that's kind of what you're gonna get. So at this rate, I thought I would be finished in February, but it's like a 48-page book, and at the current rate, it means I should be done by June. So I don't know when to start hyping it. I would say probably in January I'll have more solid art finalized, and our cover is going to be dope. I don't want to reveal it yet, but it's looking good. Also, I will say this: there is already an homage or a reference to Punchline in it. We have a character who's wearing a T-shirt that says "See Home."
Nice.
What? Hot
Yes.
dang. Hot
I know.
dang.
Oh, what about me? What about me?
Get it done.
I get a cameo?
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
do
yeah.
it. We'll do it. So because here's the thing. Since I have Brian here, what I want to do is this. So honestly, this character is kind of like it's like our Black Ops books, not really continuity heavy, but I was wondering if she could make an appearance in the Bun Shot, like towards the end. I don't know if that can be even worked in or not.
We still have to talk about the orgy scene, so I'm pretty sure we can fit her in.
Okay. Wait,
What?
it involves the bun, right?
What? Well, who else is recording?
It's
Yeah,
kind
we
of
are.
like the swimsuit special. People are like, are we gonna see USAGI in a swimsuit? I was like, yeah, you're gonna see him in a mankini.
Oh.
So here's speaking of USAGI, I do before I go, I have to tell you one embarrassing story. The book came last Wednesday just before we left for Thanksgiving, right? And so I hadn't had a chance to read it yet, and I had opened it up and I was super excited about it. And I'm telling my wife all about it, and I was talking about USAGI is the name of the rabbit, and she says Usagi, and I was like, oh my God. I can't believe I didn't notice that. I've been
Well, it's
talking
actually
about this book for months. I've been
Well, it's actually better if you don't notice it because it works on its own, right? So it doesn't matter how you interpret it. It's just one more
Well,
story
yeah.
we get to tell.
It does, but I just felt like an idiot. I mean, I've got the volume 1 Usagi Yojimbo staring at me on my shelf right over there, and I hadn't even picked up on that consequence. I mean, that thing there. So I had to embarrass myself in my own stream to talk about how I didn't pick up on it.
Well, since I have your stream captive for the next few minutes, I will say this. So there's people who have reviewed the book, and only one has pronounced Patriot Otter's name correctly. Everyone says Patriot R. So they're like, oh, the second segment by Matt Weldon is about Patriot R. And I'm here like giggling to myself like,
If it makes you feel any better, people still call Regina Rags. Irritate me. It's like, no, it doesn't even refer to her name.
Yeah, I don't.
It's like-
what
it's
does
like
it
Legend
refer
of
to?
Zelda.
Is that a unicorn thing?
What?
I call it the Legend of Zelda phenomenon, where it's
Yeah,
kinda
basically.
like, yeah. Oh, I love Zelda. He's so cool.
He's so awesome.
But my question is what does Rags refer
What's he
to?
saying? He's cutting out again.
Okay. Okay.
All
Well,
right. So,
before I talk about to Brian, I did want to share something I'm working on right now on the thing here. I will add it to the thing. So this is we're going through and republishing our webcomic archives, and so this is the beginning of a cover that I'm working on, and you can see this little rhino here. But I am taking it off of this Lisa Frank unicorn.
Dang.
And this is just a Lisa Frank picture, but I'm modifying it to a rhino for the sake of this cover gag I'm doing. But since you were talking
Nice.
about rhinos and unicorns earlier, I thought I would share my little rhinoceros.
That's dope.
sweet. That's dope.
So that's silliness. Brian, Rags is issue 6 is going to be coming out here real soon.
Yep. As soon as I get these colors back, so I can letter all night.
And I'm excited for it. Now it's a 7-issue series, yeah. And despite everybody with any kind of sense begging you, it's not going further than that.
Well, there's the crossover, and then
The crossover, right?
Yeah, and then we're going home. Then we're going home.
He's going
I
to
respect-
that
I
wondrous
respect
land
free
where
choice.
Frodo is at right now.
Yeah, into the Westerlands. Now, I respect free choice, but I also, like hearing you talk about the passion in the story and all the stuff going into it. It feels like the universe would be sadder on that day. And
Show enough.
If they really want to see me continue, just gonna share my screen one more time. You can support me here on the Rags Season 2 of the Rags Indiegogo Take the Money and Run campaign.
Yeah.
Now it's 700. Oh God, I didn't even notice this.
oh my goodness! While we've been on the stream, it's gone up $100 if I'm remembering my math right.
Nice.
Oh my God.
So-
There's
by like 50%. Game.
I tell you right now, the Mattriarchy is a magical land, I think.
Oh
It's
man,
my
I can't even do this joke now. Oh, I can't even do this joke. It just completely ruins my joke.
Oh, it's so wonderful.
Dang
Oh,
it.
almost $1,000 on a shit post campaign. This is amazing.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Oh, dude, 5 people have claimed at that level.
Yeah. So I was gonna say if this gets funded, we're gonna do a season 2.
Nice.
Oh, I guess that joke is just that joke is
It's
that
out.
ship has sailed.
Yeah, that's pretty
That
amazing.
backfired.
Were you just hoping to do the Vietnam thing where you just declare victory and go home, and now people keep throwing money at you?
Oh, that was sort of the plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I can't believe that happened.
That's amazing. I love it.
Oh,
It's my favorite thing today.
this is my problem. I do a shit post thinking like, oh, this is never gonna happen. Then things happen. But
I tell you, man, people believe in it. It's such a good property, and you've got this vision and this passion behind it, and all of this collected nerd history that's just making it's this confluence of awesomeness. It's
yeah,
true.
I just want to. So with this story, it requires a lot of precision, and if it's not done right, the whole it's like a Jenga thing. It just the Jenga tower falls apart if it's not done right.
Yes.
So, I just hold off until the end. That's all I'll say. Just wait until the end, and then make sure if you really want to see this continue. That's all I'll say on it.
That is fair, but I know that I'm definitely on board. I have been since I saw the first issue, and the irony is it may have actually been that same trip to the comic shop where I saw Punchline 1. That may have been the same trip.
That's
I don't
fake.
know for sure. But,
Fake news.
yeah.
We all kind of showed up at the same time.
So it may have been that same day, but
Yeah, but for real though, we got our book. We submitted it to Comixology like in 2017, but Rags and I said this a long time ago, and honestly, I don't know if I've said it enough. Was around way before that, and I think our success. We were literally just riding the Rags wake, for a very long time, and there's our success was highly contingent on how well and all the tilling of the soil that the proverbial soil that Rags did before us. So yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. For a little bit there, it was a competition. It was like I have to do better than those Punchline guys. I gotta do better than them. They can't win with their magical girl story, and I haven't gotten to my magical girl story yet. Oh wait, sorry, spoiler.
Oh no, it's gonna be glorious.
So, well, guys, thank you so much for coming on. I'm going to go ahead and pull the plug on the show. For you guys in the chat, thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate it. It's been a fun conversation. Brian, I know that you've never been on the show and we haven't talked a lot, but thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure. I do absolutely love Rags. I'm excited to see where it's going in the last few issues.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Definitely. Bill, once again, big fan. I think Punchline is what superhero comics need to be, and I really enjoy the hell out of that too. So.
Oh, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And Tim and Matt, thanks. You guys, you aren't so new, so it's not as important.
Yeah.
No.
They live here.
For real, we're gonna go until the freaking proverbial wheels fall off this toy car.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, I mean, like it's I have a little channel, and you guys have been great guests, and it's we're not big, but we're small, and it's fun, and I just have really enjoyed talking to you guys, talking about your projects, talking about story and art and everything. There you go.
Nice.
Next week, I just to let the people in the chat know, next week, my friend Dan Connor, who does or did My Gal the Zombie and is the current color artist for Zero's Journey from Disney's anime thingy. They've got the Nightmare Before Christmas spinoff comic. He's going to be on, and maybe a second guest. We're still working on scheduling things. But yeah, that's what's going on coming up next week. Same time as not last week. So
I just want to put this out there. If you guys don't hear from me, I'll be on my trampoline.
there you go.
If you guys don't hear from me, I will also be on Matt's trampoline.
He'll be en route to my trampoline.
Yeah.
And if you guys don't hear from me, it's because you're spying on me over
With
the
our
fence
trampoline.
into their trampoline.
You're just gonna grab your trampoline, Matt, and go to Tim's house and just jump outside of his window.
Yeah, whatever the best central location is, that's where we'll be.
That's amazing, guys. Thanks for tuning in and everything, and thanks for coming on. And you guys out there on the internet, just keep loving comics and have a great night.
So long, y'all.
Bye.
Adios.
Gotta take this.